You can even find occasionally someone who stands behind their work. Doesn't always happen with doctors and dentists and so on. If that goes haywire, you're kind of on your own. Well, sometimes it's rough sledding. Yeah, when they're talking about your hernia surgery. But when it comes to the spiritual path, if you think of yourself as someone who is on the spiritual path, help others, put others before yourself. You want to be happy, you're sick of being miserable, help others. I'm not saying that will solve the problem. The fundamental understanding, the fundamental problem is mistaken identity. The fundamental problem is thinking there is someone here who can win or lose, live or die, all the polarities. Identification with this body-mind complex as a separate being from everyone else. It's not true. But you may need more than just think thoughts about it or philosophy about it so that you deeply understand it. You have to actually go beyond the thinking process. How do you do that? You look at the thinking process. You don't stop thinking. Can't do that. Even though Katagiri Roshi once in 1974 said that to my Dharma preceptor, Shoho Mike Newhall. He was complaining, you know, I guess in a Sokuzan about his issues and problems. And Katagiri says, well, stop thinking about it. I remember hearing that back then. I just got enraged at Katagiri. How dare he tell us to do something that he knows we can't do. I'm still mad at him about it. But you can actually work with the thinking process in such a way that you don't stop it, that you watch the thoughts come out, because thoughts are they are of a lot of different varieties. But the two that you need to be aware of from this point of view is the thoughts that are coming out of dependent origination, that are just generated out of being a human being. You're going to have thoughts. And the other kind that we add on thoughts, trying to control the thoughts we don't like. Negative thoughts arise, instead of just observing, we immediately go to me, and my thoughts, and I shouldn't be thinking about that, or me, and what am I thinking about that for? Or all the little tiny short stories we write about every damn thing to actually reinforce, support what? A self that is unreal. This is unreal. There isn't anyone, no solid being anywhere. Help others. Even though there aren't any, even though there are no separate beings. This is an illusion. This is an illusion. I don't care how damn hard it is, how solid, or how much it fights back. It's unreal. And the most intense emotion you had yesterday afternoon is a dream. It is a nightmare. You need to see that. If you don't see it, you'll continue to download that nightmare on others, blaming them for how you feel. As a Dharma teacher, I have people who've been practicing a long time blame me for how they feel, rather than take what I'm saying to them as a teaching. You're listening to me talk. If you don't want to hear this kind of a teaching, maybe you shouldn't be in this room. I don't know how else to teach but this way. Am I tired of the confusion? Of course I am. We're all worn out from the constant turmoil in the mind stream, from the interaction that we have with our people we love, people we care about, people we would do anything for, we would die for. But the turmoil is still there. And what do we try to do? We try to fix it, repair it, shut something down, judge this, push that away. It's all, you might as well be building a garage or something. It has a similarity, but it is not the same. It goes beyond the parts, beyond the shingles, beyond the roofing, beyond the door, beyond the cement, beyond the foundation, beyond. It's beyond, you can't see what it is. There's no proof for this. If someone asks you, if you think I'm your teacher, and someone says, well, how do you know? You better tell them you don't know. Because you don't know. The spiritual path is not about proof, like is that a good doctor or not? It might look the same, but it is not, because the mind is very, very confused and goes in circles, and it looks like it's a straight line. A few minutes ago, the Eno came to the door and said, what's the talk title? And I said, I think I said a couple things first, but I don't repeat those. And then I said, help others. Came out of nowhere. And but I have no idea what I'm going to say. All I know is what I'm doing right now is coming out of my intense wish to help you. Am I helping you? I don't know. If I'm not, get the hell out of here. Leave. Go do something else with your life. Go build a garage. Do I want you to leave? No, I'm begging you, stay here and receive this teaching. This teaching isn't coming out of a living, solid, separate human being sitting here. This is teaching. This teaching is coming right out of the Dharmakaya. How do I know? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know in the relative term. I don't know how to hammer a nail. I don't know how to do that situation. What am I asking you to do? Help others. How would you do that? Not appearing like a helpful person necessarily. You might appear like you're not being so helpful at all. I run into that quite often, or at least some of the time. You may be giving them some money. You may be giving them a job, putting them to work. You may be feeding them. You may be just doing what? Just listening to them. People want to hear. You want to hear. People want to say. You want to say. Sometimes you're in front of somebody. You have no idea what is happening with them. They're telling you, maybe complaining. She said this and she did that. And I tried to do this, but then this happened and that happened. Just listen. Give no advice. Make them drag it out of you. It's not that you might not have some ideas, but make very, very sure that they want to hear, they want your feedback and not just to have you listen. They need to have somebody who listen to what they're saying. Help others. Even though there aren't any. This is an illusion that we're looking at. It looks so solid. I'm over here. You're over there. I can walk this way. You can walk that way. I can fall over dead. You can continue to live, or you can fall over dead and I'll continue to live. Is there a difference? There is a differentiation there, but there's fundamentally no difference. It's called the equality of sameness and difference. And it is a profound teaching that is impossible to think about. You cannot prove that this is a true teacher. I'm telling you, you need to find a true teacher. Am I that true teacher? I don't know. I only know if you come as a student, then I can teach. If I don't have a student, or if I have a student that starts saying, well, I don't know if I want to do this or go this way. If I have a student that does that, then that doesn't mean that I say, wait, are you missing the point? I'm this true teacher and now you're upset with me? Not to, it goes right down to the bottom line of it, the teacher and the student. Help others. Very simple. It might be you're just passing someone in the hallway and they stop you or they ask you for something that they've misplaced or something. You could spend some time with them. Put others, if you've received this vow formally, the vow to be with all things, the vow to save all beings, there's lots of ways to do that, very structured ways to do it that will get you in a situation where you can't help but do it. This is something that Yu Dao is doing. She's going into prisons, which I've done for many years now. I thought I got tired and I started making her do that. So she goes into prisons. What does she do? If she's doing anything what I was doing, she goes and you might have 3, 4, 5, maybe more inmates that quite often we already know their motivation. They just want something to do that they're allowed to do besides sit in a cell. They may not be interested in meditation, let alone Buddhism at all. But occasionally you find somebody who really is. They're reading books, they're studying, they're trying to learn how to meditate, and we give them some feedback. We don't go out of there thinking, oh, I'm this wonderful helper. We go out seeing how difficult it is to help anybody, especially somebody who's our society is, instead of helping that person, is punishing them. A very big misunderstanding of what society and what human beings, what humanism, just being a human being in this world. There's so much going on where no one is helping anybody. And the institutionalized situation of the Michigan Department of Corrections or federal prisons or any prison anywhere, haven't been in all of them, but a few. They're basically about controlling and about power and about money. It's not about helping the individuals who are there. The 20 years I spent going into prisons, very disappointing. Chokedal also spent some time going into prisons with me 20 years ago. Not easy to do, to go in and feel like this is set up as such that they legally have to allow you to have a spiritual path or a religious, and they have to, you all have to be vetted. I won't go into, there's so many comical situations. If somebody creates a religion, they actually will look at that and see if you live up to the whatever it is, if you're really a religion or not. Amazing. Excuse me. They'll help others. May need to do it in a structured way like that. May do it. My way of doing it is to sit here and endeavor to present to you an understanding of consciousness in the mind, not based just on the Buddha's Dharma, which is just repeating the teachings, reading a bunch of things, studying it, becoming scholarly, and talking to you about Shen Tong and Rong Tong, or the fundamental nature of reality from the point of view of ultimate and relative truth. I can do some of that too. But what I want to say is I want you to get you to hold still. The only thing you have any control over is your body, and only some of that. Can't control your digestive tract. If you try to do that, you're going to have to do it with chemicals or with something. So you have some say-so, but there's not enough there that you can just control it. Same thing with the mind stream. It's a little bit worse with the mind stream because at least there's a built-in structure of the past and the future in the relative world that we have some say-so. We think there is a tomorrow and there was a yesterday, and we use it all the time. In the mind stream, that's not true. In a dream, when you're having a dream, there's no past and future there. There's just that. There's just that. And if you see what this is, you see that this is a dream, there's just this. There isn't anything else. If you think there is, then you'll continue to do what? Go in circles, looking for something else, something better, something more improved. If you meet someone who's doing that, do not disagree, argue with them, or correct them. Just receive. Just receive. If you were to use a fancy word for this, it's just love. Love is not something you produce. It's something you are. And it will not necessarily even be a feeling. You won't feel all lovey-dovey. You may feel miserable, but it's still love. First noble truth, life is suffering. What's the third one? You will. Takes time. Are there any questions? Yes.
What's the difference between stimulation and connectivity?
Stimulation
and connectivity.
Connectivity. I understand the concepts, but I'm not sure where they might, those things might modify a little bit depending on where you're. Are you talking about a physical situation, mental?
With relationship to community.
Pardon me?
With relationship to community.
All you have to do is show up. So it's just connecting, just be there to be present, because that which is present is going to be different with each person. But is there something you want to know that we're missing out on by using those concepts? What do you want to know?
I think you answered it, actually.
Good.
This is something I've been struggling with.
Just be there, because it's going to be so different each time. What is your name?
Shara.
Shara. Okay.
It's been a while.
Been a while. Shara.
2020.
Yeah. Huh. Good to see you again. Nice hat. Nice hat. Yes.
John Jen going.
And Jen.
How do we help others who don't want to be helped in any way, or who are actively being aggressive? Well,
So it would be different with each situation. You'd have to meet it where it's at. And if you've not met your own mind, and I'm very biased here, if you've not sat down with yourself and just watched the chaos, the emotionality, the aggression, passion, ignorance happening in your own mind stream, and not fought with it, not agreed with it, and not ignored it, then it's going to be very difficult when you get off the cushion and work with someone else in those three forms of chaos. You have to see what it is. It's done through awareness, not through accomplishment. It's not about getting rid of those things, but it's about seeing very clearly so that you see, and then you will know how to relate to that. And one situation, you might even fight back. You won't see it like, I think the best thing I should do with them is hit them or yell at them or argue with them. But if you see what it is, you might find yourself doing any number of things because of your deep connectivity, and I'm using that word again, with that person, with that situation. You have an understanding that goes below the level of consciousness. It's like thinking below water. There's the thought patterns have no structure. They're messy from the point of view of ego, and they're completely crystal clear from the point of view of wisdom. It looks muddy to ego, but it's vivid, clear, and indelible, to use that word. You'll know what to do. It's called unconditional confidence. The person that you're with might think, I'm not going to deal with you anymore. You're going to treat me like that, you mean person, or you're disrespecting me, on and on. But none of that kind of chatter, that political mess that people generate to protect their ego will necessarily have any effect on you. That doesn't mean that your feelings won't be hurt on occasion, but you won't use that as some motivation to lash out or get revenge or something. More about it if you have it.
Shanjian, it sounds like what you're talking about is that's only possible once you have unconditional confidence, but it also sounds like you're directing us to or offering the instruction to do that now.
Both.
Okay.
Both, because there's from the point of view of reality, from the point of view of what this is, time and space are just more illusion. There is no space and there's no time from the point of view of reality, from the point of view of relative truth, or this illusion that we're all addicted to and fighting with and pushing on. It's very real. So we have to do both at the same time, as the old Zen saying says, before awakening, chop wood, carry water. After awakening or enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Relatively not much changes, but ultimately the understanding goes all the way to the center of the earth, to continue to use a physical metaphor.
Shanjian bowing. Okay. So going back to the original question, if we're talking about it in a relative path sense, how do we help someone in those situations? Bowing.
Paraphrase your question.
Relatively on the path, how do we help someone when they don't want help or are being actively aggressive? Bowing.
So there again, it's the situational part would be, is this person your intimate partner that you're living with, or is this person that's a neighbor? This person is someone that you only know on the internet. So that some of the distance there is going to change it. But fundamentally, it's about receive. Don't produce any suggestions or advice. And by training your mind to see the way your own mind is working, you eventually begin to have insight into anytime anyone is acting aggressive towards you, they're covering up their own suffering. It works. You can actually just get upset about something and not look directly at the distress that's going on in lower levels of consciousness. It's a way of talking about it. So if you really are receiving that person 110%, then you're not only going to see the anger or the disrespect they're showing towards you, but you're also going to see what's just behind that is being covered up. You're going to see the misery that they're going through, how frightened they are possibly of not having a reference point in their mind stream. So they have to get it from anger or from being right, or opinions or ideas or judgments or beliefs. All of those hitching posts are ego. You don't need anything. You can actually live in an open dimension where there isn't any solid self, even though you hear a voice coming out of your vocal cords and you receive sounds. There's no receiver to that sound. There's no receiver. There's just consciousness. And there may be a human form here, and that human form may go away. When your human form disappears, in other words, when you die, if you believe in this, if you believe what you're thinking, feeling, tasting, smelling. If you think that's real, then that form will go with it. You'll actually, that part of consciousness will, it's very, very agreeable. Consciousness just loves to just do whatever shows up. But to one who has realized what this is, the body can drop away and nothing has happened. There's still awareness, awareness, awareness without a body. You don't have to believe anything I said. Yes,
Wonderfine, how is receiving or listening helpful?
because that is a form of helping. It's a form of giving your attention to whatever's being said. You're actually, your generosity is by, there's something showing up at the door. It might not be a present with a red bow on it, but it's someone's speech, which is completely valuable. To be dismissive of someone's speech because of the content is to misunderstand the nature of wisdom and compassion, the misunderstanding the words of the Buddha, the misunderstand the spiritual path, not the mundane path of right and wrong, or should be and shouldn't be. That's all over the place. Our whole legal system is based on that kind of craziness. Just receive, give it your attention. Then how do you practice? How do you get so you can do that? Sit down and look at something that's not moving and watch how completely greedy your mind is. Just observe the greediness. Get to know yourself. So when I say yourself, you're getting to know initially the false self, the unreal self, the ego, and eventually that starts to come apart because you see it is based on fear. And eventually you find that who you actually are is fearless. It can't be harmed. You have to realize it. And it has no future to it because it has no past. It has no future to it. It has no present. That if I have to use the fancy word, it's eternal, which is not a commentary on time. Eternal doesn't mean something lasts forever. Yes.
What is not being helpful?
Passion, aggression, they can shut down, turn away, reject, fight, blame this way or blame that way, blame yourself, shame, big misunderstanding, pride, big misunderstanding. Pride is very, very difficult to see because the very nature of pride aligns itself with that part of the consciousness that is unreal. It's called ego or the seventh consciousness or narcissism. That's very hard to see, especially if you're dotting all your I's and crossing your T's and you relatively appear like a very kind, loving, helpful person. If you're full of yourself, you will still, when it comes right down to it, you will still put yourself before others, which is not the Mahayana path. Yes.
Wonderfine, how can we be genuine with whatever's showing up for us and be helpful and receive?
Have a willingness to lose. Have a willingness to be wrong. Relatively, or however, just have a willingness to not always have to be on first base. Have a willingness to be at the difficult end of any situation. More.
Wonderfine, how can we be full of doubt on this path or in this community and still be helpful?
That's the only way you can do it, because if you're full of some kind of confidence, it's probably going to be relative confidence based on this and this and this. There's going to be some of that. People who when they first come into this community are very much appreciative and very much like the structure we have here. But if they're here for a while, then they start to see the areas of the community that are what? Difficult and full of confusion because people are still training their minds here. But this is a protected space where you can actually do that. No one is, if I can help it, no one is sitting here judging you, no matter what you do. More about that if you have it.
Wonderfine, can we be not helpful if we're genuine?
How can we be not helpful if we're genuine? Well, we can be.
Sokuzan,
Yes.
with that kind of subtle pride, would it be helpful to be willing to look like an asshole?
Sure.
or a fool.
or a fool,
Are there any other?
anything, just a willingness to not always show up as being correct or right. And it's pretty hard to set up a situation like that where you're deliberately doing that. But it is possible in the milieu of a community, different times at book study or SAMU meeting or a community meeting or any kind of thing going on, it's possible to show up in a way that's maybe not showing your best side, shall we say, or more.
Chokodabang, I'm also wondering about, I have a style of thinking I'm helping others.
I noticed that.
Yeah,
Now stop it.
okay.
Help others, but don't let them know about it.
Mhm.
Get no credential. That's harder, isn't it? It is. It is hard not to. Also, if you're trying to protect others, we have some people in the community that are very much about protecting other people from their confusion, which is stupid. I love to say that. Don't protect anybody from anything. If somebody's in a spiritual community, do not protect them unless you think they're actually in danger. And if they are in danger, then maybe you need to look at the danger rather than protecting the person. Look at the danger and see, is that something that is true or just your projection, your bullshit opinion about it? You all know, some of you know what I'm talking about. Don't protect anybody. Just very disrespectful to someone who is going through and on a spiritual path, going through their own turmoil, their confusion. I'm not saying you should listen to them or listen and hear the difficulty they're going through, but to reach out and try to protect them from the very path they're on by saying, well, maybe this isn't the right path for you or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? No, you don't. Were you agreeing or disagreeing?
I'm not sure.
I like that. Do you understand what I'm referring to?
I think so.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Can protecting someone be a form of helping them?
It could be, and sometimes it very much is, but sometimes it's more about wanting to be a protector. Pride. Come to me, my children. I will protect you. I'm not going to protect you from the crap you need to look at. Did you get, as it says in the teachings, get too close to the teacher, you get burned. Don't get close enough. Don't get close, you don't get enough heat. So it's kind of a silly, but it's like that.
Junior Valley. How do we help others when we feel burnt out?
Take a nap. I mean, rest, sit back. It's a very relative situation if you burn out. You're working with a situation is much different now that you're living in a different place. You lived in the community for what, 7 years? 7? I'm not good with numbers, but I'm kind of looking at the part that looks like a year going by, and then I'm saying 1. Another year went by, and I still see it. And then there's a point where you stop being there. And I think that was this 8th year. Help me with this.
7 or 8 years.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. How close is she? Pretty close?
Very.
Okay. So you did, is that something that relieves some stress, didn't it? By being away from the monastery a little bit? If I'm addressing, I'm not sure, maybe I'm missing exactly what you're asking about, but it seems like getting some kind of distance from there help you. Less triggers, shall we say? More question?
Junior Valley. I guess it just looks like there are a lot of people in the community who are burnt out.
Like me?
Mhm.
No. Burnout. I think that's actually a noun, isn't it? He's a burnout. No. Yes, go ahead. What's your question? Yes, it's difficult. It's a spiritual path. It's difficult. But we try to do it situationally. So we have people right now asking to move in here. Why would they move into a place where there's living with a bunch of burnouts? why are they laughing? I'm not. Yes, I think that's 5 fingers you're holding up.
Wunderbar, are they burnt out or are they receiving teaching?
It's very difficult to know. Only that person will know, and possibly the teacher will know. And possibly he, she, or they won't know either. If it's a true teacher, they're probably doing the best they can to work with what they see rising. And if they're a true teacher, they're not necessarily working out of their preconceptions about who's in front of them, but out of their insight into their own mind to see who they are. They know who they are. The only thing I'm not saying I'm a true teacher, but I know who this is. I have no doubts who this is. And this is not alive. This is not a living being. Was at one time, or I thought it was, but you aren't either. You just think you are. Big surprise coming. It's called death. You do not die. Don't believe me. Consider it. Go ahead, more.
Wunderbar, just on that same subject, how do we work with the teacher to, we want the teaching, and we could be looking like we're under a lot of stress.
Yes.
And feel like we're handling it, but yet others see burnout.
Well, what is the question? I can
How
try
do you
to.
work with the teacher to help us?
How does the teacher work with you? How do you work with the teacher?
Yes,
But it's different with every situation. Some people I actually tell them, go move away, go somewhere else. Some people I say, stay here. They may do what I say and they may not. It's not important to obey this person. If you have that, then you have a cult. I'm not talking about obeying more if you have it.
Wunderbar, but what happens if it looks like things aren't being done on time? Or are a little messier? It may look like burnout. Is it teaching possibly?
If there's a student, then it's a teaching. If there's no student, then it's just a mess. And of course, it could be both. A specific situation if you have it.
Wunderbar, I'm just referring to, I'm a couple months behind on the financials, and there are a couple other things that I haven't. I need to do, and I may be.
What, are you lazy?
Around.
Are you lazy?
Like I'm burned out.
Are you lazy? It's a
I don't
valid
think
question.
so. Do you think so?
I do not think you're lazy at all. It's a joke. It's a joke. I'm surprised you didn't burn out long ago. Why are you able to do all of this? You got shoulders as broad as a buffalo. How do you do it? How do you do it? Because you don't stop. It's not a compliment. It's just an observation. You go into the prison? Hope they let you out. Tell them I said hello. Go ahead.
Oh, Divine, I honestly do not know. It just shows up. I do what needs to be done.
I would say so. So now you've said all that. Now, what is your question?
Can we look messy to the community and not? And I guess maybe how do we communicate that it's okay to be messy? Or miss deadlines, or
I think you do it. Don't you think you do it?
I was just,
I mean, I can't, you help people all day long. You help me all day long. You help everybody. Anybody that asks you for help, you're there. I've never seen you refuse anybody, anything. It's not I'm not complimenting you. You don't need any compliments. Or do you? No, you don't. You just function all day long. You live in a monastery, you're a fully ordained monk. And I can't say anything more other than that, unless you have a further question. Take a nap. Go visit your mom. You're going to do that in January. You'll be gone for a week. I don't know how this place will function without you, but I imagine it'll be all right. Nice to see you, Sean Baxter. Nice to see everybody else here too. Even you guys that are hiding behind your names. Further questions here? Oh, yes. I'll take one in here and then I'll go to on to Zoom.
Carmen Bowing.
Yes.
Going back to the kind of question on aggression and dealing with, relationships with, well, let's just say there's to other people, like a triangulation sort of
Yes.
situation has occurred. There's a lot of hostility and aggression.
Yes.
And it feels directed at me, but I
Yeah.
think there's stories on both sides, but
Yes,
my
what's the question?
yeah, the question is, I've reached out to try to, the three of us get together and talk,
Yes,
and one wants to do this and the other does not.
okay.
Is there anything else to do?
So,
Because that doesn't seem that I can get
So
the
it-
three of them together.
so it's unlikely, and I don't know the whole situation, of course, just what little you've told me, but it's unlikely that anything is going to happen other than more spinning, more triangularity, unless there's some kind of mind training there. And even with mind training, that triangularity can still go on. It's a very, very long, complicated situation we call karma, or we call a samsara, or the constant turmoil of the three sufferings: passion, aggression, ignorance. And all wrapped up inside of that is a self that wants to win, a self that wants to be respected, a self. And if you see who this is, you don't care what happens. It's not that you're dismissive. It's not that you're not aware of what's happening, but you don't have specific concerns about situations. And when you're dealing with dealing with a situation where you have this kind of confusion in a triangular disagreement thing going on, the energy is going all over the place. There's no way you can iron that out. I'm not saying that can't come apart and suddenly resolve itself just because of the nature of dependent origination. Of course it can. Happens all the time. It looks like we've solved it when actually it was just time for it to stop having that kind of negative energy. So I would say most important thing for you to do without knowing anything more about it is train your mind. Try to see the natural sanity that you were born with. It's just natural sanity. You don't have to win. Nothing has to resolve itself, but you have to see what this is yourself. And that way you won't, and I'm not accusing you of anything. This way you won't add to the confusion that's already there. And you may be able to even draw in some of that energy so that it doesn't end up being warfare for this tiny group of people. You're welcome. Anyone online on Zoom have a question?
Kayun bowing. I think last week maybe you said that who you are can't burn out.
Yes, I did.
So when we talk about burnout, what exactly is burning out?
Just the passion, aggression, ignorance tied up with the body mind, which the identity is so intense and so strong that we actually feel. And that maybe the only person that can even help us there would be a therapist or a psychologist or possibly some kind of chemicals or something, because it's so intense. But at some point you may want to begin training your mind, but that would have to come from the individual. If you're already training your mind and that's happening, still may need to get some help from a different direction. Like there's even 12-step programs that are tied into Buddhism. I've participated a little bit in those, and I don't care for them. I'm not saying they aren't workable for some people. Don't misunderstand. I'm just saying that's not something I would promote necessarily, nor would I try to talk someone out of it. More, Kayun.
Kayun bowing. I'm just curious about this in myself, but it seems like when you've talked about the mindfulness hall, which you're putting a lot of energy into, but
Yes.
also have said you don't really care if it happens or not. So I wonder, like, is the burnout from placing a demand on a situation that we're putting energy into?
I think it is. We want results. We're working. It's not that we're going to ignore cause and effect. Of course we're not. But this is a spiritual path. And we have to transcend this world. And we can't transcend this world if we're constantly clinging to causes and results. And we need to do a little bit of that. But you won't know how much energy to put into the should happen, shouldn't happen, unless there's a strong understanding of who you are fundamentally. You have to know who this is. And if you know who this is, you don't need to get a pat on the back from anybody. You don't need to succeed. There's no demand for anything else. It's always this. But if one who has realized their true nature is in any one of the realms, the hell realm, the jealous God realm, the God realm, the human realm, the hungry ghost realm, any one of those dynamics that is completely tied up in passion, aggression, and ignorance, then you can function there, because you function there. It's just, it's not idealism. It's not like some, oh my gosh, there's a light being. No, the only people that can see light beings are light beings. Everyone else just sees more demons because it's a projection. They project onto the world. You can't stop doing that, but you can see that you're doing that and slowly draw back the constant nurturing of that demon or that negative energy. Not a demon, it's just negativity gone amok. You can do it. You can realize this yourself. If you're interested, I can help you. I can't do it for you, but I can say, train your mind. Yes.
Sanji, is confusion a relative cause of our suffering?
Confusion is just the nature of reality that is spinning around in circles. Just confusion. It's still reality. It's still not separate from the Buddha. Confusion and awakening are not two different things. They just look like it. Yeah.
So you are saying that it's important to just look at the confusion?
Yes. You have to, but it's very easy to think you're looking at it when actually you're pushing on it, pulling on it, turning away from it, blaming someone for it, blaming yourself, all the constant chatter around that rather than actually receiving it. Just receive it is very, very difficult to do. Takes great courage.
So in order to help someone else, we must look at our confusion?
To fundamentally to do that, but that doesn't mean that in your daily practice that you might not be putting someone else before yourself. You might not be doing that in a relative way. This is called relative bodhicitta. Ultimate bodhicitta is not something you do, even though it's taught that way sometimes by Atisha and a few other teachers. But relative bodhicitta is just help others, simply put. Go ahead. I'll get to you in a minute. Go ahead.
Beyond bowing.
Yes.
I'm thinking about Harmon's question and the disorder of relationships, the
Yes.
messiness, and Ondo, and the messiness of relative matters, finances, practical things. And there's just such a strong desire for order and control and organization. And it looks to me like there's a line between chaos and order, and
That's a projection. You hadn't gotten to your question yet, but I thought I would help you help you a little bit about what you were saying. It looks like.
so
Yes.
I just see a line between the two.
Just keep looking at the line. Don't change it. Don't erase it. Just because I said something about it, you can consider that, but just look at that. And consider, when I say it's a projection, just consider it. It's something you created. It is not there. Sanho.
So a lot of my helping others seems to come from production. I wonder, does helping others involve just receive all the time? Sanho.
So it will look different to different people, but you can't fundamentally help somebody unless you're doing a lot of receiving about who they are, what's going on, all the textures that people present out of their talk or their positionality on any given thing, to be able to see really clearly what that is, and then be very respectful. Wait for them to ask you. Do not help somebody based on your ideas, about things. You could say to me, well, what are you doing with this community mindfulness center? Aren't you coming up with a lot of daydreams about how you're going to help people? No, that is a way to provide a space so that there's no advertisement there. There may be an announcement so that someone could wander off the street or we could have a group coming from another organization here in town that might come over and use that space to do what? Just look at their mind. There's nothing to believe there. No sales pitch particularly. No promises and all of that. So you could do the same thing with your situation. Just have the openness to just listen to what's happening. More?
Sound hobo, and later today, I plan to have an interview with you about how I can help with the Community Mindfulness Center. But in the meantime, how does 90-10 relate to helping others? Sound hobo.
So 90-10 is an idea that I came up with a while back about listen 90% of the time and produce or talk 10%. And of course, we can't completely do that, but if you're working with somebody you're having difficulty with, whether it's your spouse or whether it's a next door neighbor, you could spend 90% of the time just listening. And if they're not saying much, then you could use your 10% to say, how are you doing? How does that look to you? How do you feel about that? And draw that person out so that they have a chance to express themselves. And when they express themselves, what you need to be doing in your 90% is listening to what they're saying, and then listening to the ideas, conclusions, and evaluations that are rising in your own mind, along with as reactions. Don't hook up the vocal cords yet, and maybe not hook them up at all, but actually not only receive. The 90% means not only listen to the other person, but listen to your own monkey mind or chattering mind around anything that's being said. And then don't come to conclusions. I mean, if you come to conclusions, then that might be choiceless, but the idea that you've got to come up with some kind of an idea about something it's just ignoring the fundamental nature of what this is, of dependent origination. More about it, Sano. You have a question? Mitch?
You did, Mitch Bowing. You had said, I mean, the point of the talk is to help others, but also not, I don't know about not to, but to be wary of helping others before you've helped yourself or found yourself.
I wouldn't go that far.
Was that not how I was saying?
Yeah, a little bit of that, but it's like you can't fundamentally help others if you're still confused about who you are and you're still trying to fix yourself. So then you're going to take that. If you think you need to be fixed, you're going to put that on others and think they need to be fixed. I may say maybe not always so, but there's something to that. So find out who this is, but at the same time, you could also put others before yourself in a relative way. Be considerate of others, listen to them, see how they're doing, have some inquiry about how things are going for them, possibly help them literally do things. You already do some of that with your life. Yeah.
Would you answer some YouTube questions?
Milka?
Milka Bowing, we have 21 people and 5 questions so far.
Oh, 21 people, but only 5 questions. They all got together.
Milka Bowing.
Teaming up on me. Yes, go ahead.
Andrew in the UK.
Andrew?
Bowing. Yes.
And okay, Andrew in the UK. Go ahead, Andrew.
Could being helpful be described as being an instrument of the situation? Bowing.
It could be. Yes, that's getting close to the understanding that people are trying to get to about dependent origination. You're functioning in dependent origination where there are no separate beings or no separate items. There's just this. So the itemization is still happening in the illusion. You don't have to get rid of the illusion in order to function in it. You might do quite well to dance in the illusion. So yes, instrumentation that would be a conceptual word, but maybe. Now, let me know how that goes.
Milka Bowing, Susanna or Susie Bowing, how to be untoxic to our own self.
Yes, spend a lot of time sitting down, looking at the wall, looking at the closet door, looking at the carpeting, and with all eyes open, all the senses open, and have the attitude. You might not be able to accomplish it right away, to just receive whatever shows up in the sense fields without comment. And what's going to show up probably in some area is what you're calling toxicity. Just look at the toxicity. The toxicity gets its energy of being toxic from being rejected, aggression, from being accepted or explained or blamed, passion, or being ignored, ignorance, or being turned away from, which could involve anything from physical activity of doing things to not think about it, or taking certain chemicals to cover up aspects of the consciousness that are bothersome. So sit down, hold still, observe what moves. And when the toxicity arises, or what you're identifying as that, just look at it. Look at the corners. Look at the dark areas of the toxicity. And don't abandon the toxicity for any judgment or cure-all that may pop up. Just be toxic, at least while you're on the cushion. Then when you get off the cushion, there's a possibility that that toxicity, because you're responsible for it, because you're actually responsible for the bullshit in your mind, you're unlikely to dump it on others. Life may be more painful for you. Then what you need to do is turn to the First Noble Truth of the Buddha. Life is suffering, not part-time. Be genuine. Help others, help others, help others. Any more?
Yoke bowing. Asks, is it accurate to say that helping ourselves or others does only help the past?
The what?
The past,
PAST?
yes, with a capital P in brackets also.
You have to read that again. I might want to agree, disagree, or tell them to shut up.
Is it accurate to say that helping ourselves or others does only help the past?
I'm not sure what it is you want to know. I'm making a little sense out of it, but if I go into that sense that you're apparently making there, it just seems extremely unclear. So unless you can clarify that, you might want to come back in a little while and rephrase your question. Maybe let me know what you want to know, because that's not clear there.
Kabowing, a question from Javier Santos. How can I be so in tune with your teaching and be so bad at sitting and meditating?
Well, it's probably because you're an evil person. No, that's all. Everything you said there is awareness, and it's not easy to sit. The downside is it's so bad to sit because you don't want to do it. The upside is that it's just telling me, without even meeting you, that when you sit, you probably are looking right at the illusion of that there's no solid self. The ego does not want to be observed. So when you sit down and hold still and you think, just don't want to do this, I've got things to do, and you think, well, I got laundry to do, and anything to get away from that cushion, it's basically saying that the sitting that you are doing is probably working quite well. You're actually looking at the obstruction we call ego, or the self-centeredness, the narcissism, the intense greed of ego that wants to control and doesn't want to be, wants to be in control. And there is no such thing as control. If you think there is, you'll continue to suffer and try to control things. So I would say just don't give up. If this teaching helps you, then I'm doing this. I've been doing this a lot, every day in some way. If you go on the website, listen to this teaching, and try to sit a lot. You can sit with our community. We sit every day. Go on Zoom, sit with us. Yes.
Kabowing Ath came back with, in other words, is helping helpful or merely reinforcing the past, conditioning, etc.
It's helpful. And I don't do either or questions. I leave that to Soren Kierkegaard. He did a good job. I can't top that. Can you clear that up? What question you had?
Yun bowing, if all I can see is black and white, I mean, will I ever, how can I even decide to help? Or
Just you're doing it. You're actually doing, I know you pretty well. I'd say you're doing it. It's just a matter of it's like talking to somebody that's going up a mountain, and the person on the mountain, you turn around to the person who's pretty familiar with the mountain, and you say, you really mean that 1 foot after the other? But looks like there's a top, and looks like there's all the places I've been. Will I ever? It doesn't look like there's any progress. It always looks like you're just always in the same spot. And are you? Yeah. But the illusion is that there's a mountain. Climb it anyway. Climb it anyway. You can do it. It's a powerful illusion, but use the illusion of otherness and of a mountain of impossibility of doing this. This is impossible to do because it's already the case. You already are not. You are not separate from enlightenment or from the Buddha or from ultimate reality. You are ultimate reality. It may not feel like it, and you may go ahead and grasp it a self for century after century, lifetime after lifetime. Is there such a thing as more lives? I don't know. Not interested. No, I need no proof for anything. Sanho.
So can you help people and have no idea what you're doing?
Of course. That's the only way. You think I know what I'm doing? Don't give me any credit for anything. I don't know anything. I couldn't function if I was up here with some kind of an agenda other than the vow. I received a vow many years ago to be with all things, to save all beings. I intend to. That's the only reference I'm going to have. And it's and relatively it feels like failure. But ultimately it feels like nothing's happened. Those are not separate. Yes, sir.
Now, is the spiritual path more important than the mundane path?
They're the same. They're back to the teaching of Sandokai, the equality of sameness and difference. That's why it's so difficult to think about or figure out or have a strategy about. So that's why it's necessary to have something like the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, Sangha, the one who saw, one who understood what he taught, the concepts he taught, and what he pointed at, and the community of people who are trying to understand that. Go ahead, please.
Does our vow or our intention protect us or exempt us from relative responsibilities?
I don't think so. I think the relative responsibility, I'm not sure what area you're inquiring about there, what's bringing up that question, but there is a kind of protection of the vow, but it's not the relative kind of, this is happening, you're protected like a shield or something. It's another kind of protection. It's you're protected by the understanding, the teaching in Buddhism called emptiness or shunyata. Everything is empty of what you think or perceive. Go ahead.
Earlier with Ondo's question, you talked about how tireless she is, but could she become exhausted and sick?
She could
actually have her body break down.
She could
from working too much.
Yes, she could. How's that working? I don't. Anybody know what this mudra means? No, really, seriously, you have a spot. I think it's I'm asking you. You work hard.
The question is, could I become sick? I'm not sick now.
Are you, do you have so much pride that you won't ask for help?
At times.
How about right now? I'm asking for help for this Community Mindfulness Center. Help me do this. And I'm also saying it doesn't matter if it succeeds. That's the only kind of success I'm interested in. Is the intention. It's the intention to do it. And it can't be explained, can't be described. And maybe people who have a tight fist around their cash or their money won't help. But then other people will be inspired by that in some way. I'm asking for help from everyone. Please help. $20, $100, more, whatever. Help us do this so we can. Help us do this. Same thing in your situation is you have a lot to do. You're the executive director. You're working with all the finance. We finally got some help from one of my students. I found out is a bookkeeper. Didn't even know it. Oh yeah, she says I love numbers. I think I'm addicted to numbers. Is that a problem? I said no. Are you addicted to numbers? No, I said are you? What did I ask her if she was an accountant? Yeah, and she says no. I said, what is your degree? Math. I guess I didn't know that before. I said, are you good at it? She says, I'm very good at it. I said, you want a job? And so, yeah, she's already getting some of the books balanced, right? I think we're way behind in some of that because we don't, nobody gets a salary here. So everybody from the Eno and the Shuso and the Sukansu and this person, I don't get a salary. So I'm not only I'm on Social Security, but I also get Donna. So people who are generous enough to help me. Several people right here online and in this audience are very generous to keep the lights on for me and keep gas in the Prius. So, and I appreciate it very much. So is there a final question or did you have more?
Not now.
Okay. Is there a final question from anybody in here? Anyone on? Yes, sir. Seth.
Seth Bowing. Are we avoiding our spiritual path by doing what is easy?
By what is what?
Doing what is easy. If we choose ease.
I don't think so. As you've heard me say hundreds of times, if you've listened, it's always about awareness, never about what you do. I will not interrupt anyone's karma or anyone's causes and conditions. So if you need to do that, and your definition or your word for it might be easy, but I don't think that's necessarily, I wouldn't do it with easy or hard. So don't do that. Just do it. Do you have to do it? If you don't have to, you've heard me say, you don't have to do this. You don't have to come here. If you don't have to meditate, don't do it. And that way you start to live out of what actually needs to be done. I'd rather see you do that and be aware of it rather than be a student of mine or sit facing a wall. You follow that a little bit? So yeah. Yeah. Do what's easy. But just be aware. It's about awareness. It's not about what you do. This teaching, it goes way back before I got here, before any of us got here. It's not about what you do. Because karma is going to, there's no way to, it's like you shouldn't be a man. You should be this, you should be that. All that confusion is going on in the world. And should it be there? Yeah, it's confusion. But you just need to do what you need to do. Last I heard, you're a student of mine. Is that true?
Yes.
That's still the case today?
Yes.
All right. Then do that. Not going to be easy. So just by when you ask me that question, I know that. I know you've formally become a student of mine. So I know that you're not necessarily picking an easy path. This is not easy if you're talking to me. I'll take one more. And I'll take one more from you and I'll take one more on Zoom if there is one. And then that's it. Final. Go ahead.
Is there a relationship between intention and confusion?
So the intention is in the middle of the confusion. You don't have to get rid of confusion. You just need to see it. You don't need to correct it or fix it. Just be responsible for the confusion that shows up. Being responsible doesn't mean blame. It just means that you have it. It's your taste buds. It's your eardrum. It's your mind stream. It's your emotions. It's your memory. It's yours. It's yours. It's yours. Not yours, the identity, ego, but yours, this particular consciousness that has come into this realm we call the human realm. It's just whatever's happening needs to be there. So the intention is that part of the consciousness that has heard the word of the Buddha. See what is true. Find out what is true. Don't believe, don't disbelieve, don't ignore. See what is true for you. You can do that. I'm here to encourage you to see that yourself. Liberate yourself. Kayun. One more. That's it.
Kayan bowing. Sometimes often you've used the example of, I think, the 16th Karmapa looking out on the balcony of Hong Kong and falling down.
Yes.
What's the difference between that receiving of compassion and burnout? Bowing.
So he just fell down, but his monks helped him back up. He was totally overwhelmed, at least the way he described it, by the incredible looking over the city, the incredible, what he was seeing of the suffering of millions of people all at once. And so it was just, kind of overdosed on it, you could say. But I don't know, I wasn't there, so to draw some kind of conclusion in the area you're asking about, I don't, the 16th was not burnout. I mean, he passed away fairly young, but I didn't sense there was any kind of burnout going on there. The person I met there was just an astonishingly powerful presence. He was so present and felt so ordinary that at the time I met him, I thought, well, how could he be an unusual great person? He just seems like an ordinary guy.
Hi, in bowing. I guess my question is, you've also said if we really experienced compassion, it might kill us or knock us back on our asses.
Good.
I'm just wondering, is there a difference between the intensity of this quality versus the burnout, which seems to be a personalized reaction to it?
What are you getting at there? What do you want to know?
I'm just wondering if the burnout is the result of separating ourselves from compassion. Bowing.
To use those terms, probably there's something in there, something about trying to accomplish something or getting credit for something or feeling like compassion takes some kind of relative energy to actually go beyond somebody's resistance to helping. So I'm not sure, I'm maybe making things more confusing, but it is, I could come back to it over and over again. And if you connect with this, then I'm happy, but it is not about doing so much as about receiving. Just receive the misery of the world. Receive it. If there's someone still here, then that gets obliterated. There's no one here, that it goes right on through, just like light goes right on through, light right through the clouds. You can do that. Thank you so much.
Penetrate into all places so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Sokuzan, Shiku, Shison, Usan, the 10 directions, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna, Paramita.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokokoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with light.
Thank you, Sokuzan.
You're welcome, Cynthia.